Alrighty, so what we're going to do is make a responsive website based upon Morbius, which is one of the single greatest movies and I would say inspirations of memes in current modern American history. So what I'm going to do first is, since I've already made this and I kind of know roughly, what I've done and where I want to go, it's always kind of weird jumping back and forth. So I'm just going to bring some stuff in right here. I'm going to copy and paste off the screen. And then, I'll explain it as I go along. So I have this right here. I'm going to be using FontAwesome. We're not going to get to that right now this second, but I'm bringing that in. And then I'm also bringing in my style CSS right here, which has nothing in it right now. And in assets, and all this will be available in my GitHub repository. Don't forget to star it, all that other cool stuff. And like, share, and subscribe. This is fun stuff for me. But I will have a link to this photo. It's one of the greatest cinematic snapshots ever. But I'm going to have a link to it. I'm not going to upload it with the rest of my files, just in case someone's, gets like butthurt over this. So we have this website right here. I have, the skeleton. Let's actually add this in right here. Morbin time. Now let's get rolling on this. So now that I have the title, let's go ahead and get the live browser going. Let me pull this off screen real quick. All right, so now that we have this, we're doing fairly well so far, but we have no content, right? Just the tab that has been updated, with our code so far. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come down into here. And I think this may be kind of the wonky part as I'm going through this, because I'm still new and doing tutorials. So I'm going to be jumping between two different kinds of stylings, and I'll show you what that means in a second. So I have the media screen right here. And of course that goes all the way up. But what I'm going to be doing through here is coming between like the standard styles I'm going to have up here. And then what I'm going to do to make this, what we should be doing is I'm going to start off at my mobile view. And then as I'm, feel it's okay, I'm going to switch it to, like an iPad or something along those lines. So that way, ultimately it's less code that we have to write. And I just think it's a better approach overall. So let's go back to our HTML here. And let's go ahead and let's make our header. So we're going to have an H1 right here. And then we're going to do it's Morbin time. It's always Morbin time, right? And then I'm going to come in because I'm going to want some kind of menu system using a little bit of Emmet here. So abbreviation. Feel free to pause the video and, follow along and whatnot. But if you're using Visual Studio Code, and you haven't used Emmet, or you've used some of the shorthand, but not all of them, I would, spend some time looking it up because it saves you a lot of coding hassle. I wonder if it's going to let me do that. Let's do button here. And then I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to put that right there. So then let's do the Morbin fan club. And this isn't a full-blown thing. These aren't going to link anywhere. There's going to be dead buttons. So I know that's a little depressing, but this is more of a mock-up than anything else that we're doing. So we have the header here. All right. And this live server should automatically save. Once again, if you don't have live server, you can either download it for Visual Studio Code, or you could just open up the HTML file in a browser. It'll work just fine. You'll just have to reset it every time you do a change. So you come up here and just, keep clicking reset. But we can see that we have it's Morbin time, Morbin fan club, buy tickets. This would already pass for a true fan site for Morbius in general. But because we're super fans, what we want to do is come in and add some styling to make this, maybe a little bit more attractive. So what I'm going to do up here now is go through and let's see here. Margin 0, let's see, padding, just some of the defaults I typically see and or use on projects. And then what I'm going to do here is, I know it may not specifically impact the header now, but just so I'm not jumping around my CSS styles because I see them all off screen, I don't forget one. I'm just going to kind of enter some of the general stuff I have down, and we'll see how that works as we go through the project. So for the body, what I'm going to want to do is have, it was a margin auto I decided on. And the thing is, you could take this project or make your own clone project or edit it however you want to. I just want to do this for a fun, silly project. And for the background color, let's see. I'm going to do this. I think it's 16161A. If you want to know like how I kind of come across my colors and choose them, even though I'm still working on it being better, drop a comment down below if you have any other inquiries for, anything you may want, because yeah, definitely want to help you all out. So we'll do display none because we are going to use this image in two different kinds of ways. So we got this rolling right here, and then let's come down in here. And then since we're working on mobile view first, let's start off with some of our stylings here. And what's really weird is actually disable globally. You have GitHub Copilot and it's fine, I like it. But if I'm doing a tutorial, it sometimes recommends a lot of very helpful stuff, but it also clogs the screen. And I don't think that's very helpful if I'm, teaching. So we have the H3, we have another, let's see, font size here. And how did I come across these? How do I know? Trial and error. I could have used maybe more responsive styles that grow as the page grows. But, these are just some quick and dirty ones I chose. I'm always working under the assumption that every website isn't quite done. So, as you go through and look at your own work or maybe other people's work, there's always improvements that could be made. And let's see here. So we're going to come in here into the unordered list. I'm going to do a margin top of, let's do 20 pixels. We're going to come and do a padding of the bottom. Let's do 10 pixels there. And let's see, for each line item, let's do 10 pixels as well. And so we have, this right here. It's not necessarily the best yet. So let's go ahead and come up here and let's add some more styles. So we're going to come up into the header, which itself is a regular tag. If we're looking at the header, it's just a regular element here, so we don't have to worry about any classes particularly yet. So we do a background color 16161A. Let's do a text align center. The color, which is going to be the color of the font, is like, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 E, I want to say. I always forget to add these. And then the height, let's just do 125 pixels. And then let's come down in here and do display inline right here. And let's see what we got. So it's looking a little bit better right here. And so how could we, make this a little bit better? let's go ahead and work on some of these buttons right here. So let's come into here and let's start adding some styles to the buttons in the header. And it seems like a lot of CSS up front. I totally understand that, but trust me, there'll be a lot of the work is done at the base level and it just cascades, you know, on upward. So I believe this is going to be 417 DF4. The color is going to be 16161A. Kind of keep it consistent with their background there. Border, none. I'm going to give it some padding of 10 pixels. Font size is going to be 16 pixels. Let's do something fun with the cursor. It's going to be a pointer when we go over it. Actually, I do want a border. See, you always find some dead code somewhere or something that is an inefficiency. So we'll do 1 pixel. Solid white. We'll do a border radius because we don't want like sharp edges to our button. We kind of want to smooth it out, make it a bit more round. So we're going to do that. And then font weight, because we want the thickness to kind of stand out. And let's kind of see what we have so far. So this is okay. It's, you know, it's coming along. That's fine. But we really want to make money, right? You have your own website for whatever, but odds are you're going to be working for yourself or for someone else, and money doesn't grow on trees. So we're going to want to generate sales. And so you want to direct them to this buy tickets. But how do we do that? There's 2 buttons right here. Do I create all these other, you know, separate kinds of classes? And the answer is no, you don't really have to. You could just come in here and we could do something like so. Now this is going to target the last button or the second button, the one on the right. And so we could do a background color of F44141. We'll do a color 16161A. And I know some of these are similar, and I probably don't necessarily need some of these repeat styles like the font weight, but these are things you could play with if you want to. So I'm just keeping them there. So now we have, you know, Morbin fan club, buy tickets. Okay, that looks pretty cool. That looks pretty interesting. So let's come down in here and let's see what we have. So we have the padding, we have everything else looking pretty sweet so far. So now that we have that, let's come down and let's go into our next section of the HTML. And what are we going to do? We're going to have a div. And so what I'm going to do to create more real estate, you already know I have an assets folder. Don't worry about this VS Code thing. I'm not even sure if that's generating, and you're not going to see it in my repository. We know assets that has a photo, so I'm just going to close this off so it's easier on everyone's eyes. So I'm going to make a div dot, and that's going to be the class. So we're going to call this hero because that's the big, you know, image or the big, you know, idea when you hit the page. And so then I'm going to make another div in here. I'm going to call this one the hero bar. And then inside of here is where the stuff kind of starts happening. So we're going to have an image. And if you noticed earlier, I believe it's here. We're not going to display it right away because I decided to do a different strategy when it got to desktop size, and we'll see that play out. So I'm going to have that morb.jpg. For is going to be Morbin time, baby. And then in here, what we're going to have is another div, and this is going to be hero-info. And so we're going to have an H2, and we're going to state that it's a classic movie because it's like our generation's Gone with the Wind. A once in a generation classic. That's why I had to go. I hope it goes to theaters a third time. We have another button. Buy tickets. So now that we have this section done here, and this is kind of the point, if you're new to making responsive web stuff or just having fun here, whatever it is, you know, we have headers. Headers are kind of self-contained. You know, it's going to be the top of the page. But as you go through here, if you have sections or divs, you want like a big idea, either a class or an ID or something. So that way we could take this and we can, you know, section it out neatly. So let's see what we have. We have a classic movie, buy tickets. I'm not sure. I think the P tag is right here. Let's check this out. Maybe. Yeah, a once in a generation classic, but there's no picture. Let's make this look a little bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and start doing that right here. So what I'm going to start off now is, since I already came through there, I'm going to come through and do some base styles, and then I'm going to come through into my phone view and then start, you know, working that way. So what I want for my hero is I want a background image, and it's going to be URL, and it's going to be a string, which is anything in quotes. I'm going to do assets. We're going to do a /. I'm going to do morb. And then we're going to do a background. Let's see, repeat. We're going to do a no repeat in case that does happen. We're going to make the position relative because we want to take the text and kind of set it on top of the picture. And then because the photo itself is like 675 pixels, and I kind of want a certain look, I'm going to, you know, put it on there like that. So I have this. All right, so this is cool. I'll move the text. I'll do all that eventually. But, you know, he's like off to the side. And it would be kind of funny if I took this and just moved it straight down. And this actually looks really funny. But what if I want to center this, right? What if you come to a spot when you're making a website and you're on a mobile view, and you know when it's on desktop, you'll have the whole shebang going on. But you want to show like an essence of the photo until they use a larger device. How do you do that? So you're going to come in here. You're going to do background position. And this is one of those styles that I forget about. And then when I rediscover it, like every other day, I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty dope. So I come back in here, and then now, wham bam, it is centered here, which is pretty cool. I think that is pretty dope. So what we got to do now is move this to, like, I think somewhere in here, right? Or somewhere slightly down below. So let's come into here and do this in our CSS. .hero info. And let's add some color so that way some of our stuff is interesting. Come back in. And our hero info, don't forget, is everything in here. So the text, essentially. So now that's a little bit better. Let's come back into our styles. And so we're going to come into the .hero info button itself. And what I'm going to do is essentially copy off screen, but it's stuff that we've already done. And there's a more intelligent way, like I'm not using CSS variables, or yeah, I could really be using CSS variables here. but I traditionally haven't because I don't know if they were even around when I started doing web development. So that's something else I have to get in the habit of. But now we have this right here. And actually I screwed up because I have to do button. So now these two things are identical. They have the same styles, which is cool. So now that I have all of that, come on up here. So I'm just making sure right now off screen, everything looks good to go before I, start blowing stuff up. So, all right, looks like I'm good to go. And so I'm going to come down, and what I want to do now is, since I'm in, yes, sometimes it's very easy to get confused which media query you're in if you're in one at all. So right below here, I'm going to come down and do position relative. Actually, I don't need another style after that. I'm going to go into my hero bar. We do a width of 300 pixels. We do a position of absolute. I think it's top 80% because I want to move it slightly below center. We do left 50% because I still want it centered. And then we're going to do a transform. We're going to do a translate. And then these are going to be, I think, offsetting this by negative 50%, negative 50%. Get rid of that. And now we have this right here. That's pretty cool. So it's now moved down. We have the kind of call to action fan club buy tickets up here. And then now down here, we have, another call to action, and then, the main idea, classic movie, and then once in a generation classic, the subtext, and then more buy tickets there. Cool. So now that we have that, let's come in here and we'll do a hero bar, and then we'll work on the button. And it's not a whole lot we want to do here. Once again, you could add what you want to during this tutorial. It doesn't matter. You could add what makes it, nice in your view. All right, so hero bar top. And let's see here. Let's see, did that actually move it there? Or did I? Ah, there we go. Hero info. There we go. See, this is the thing. When I was originally making this and all my code is off screen here, it is very easy to, as you jump back and forth, to miss something or mislabel something, because the hero info class actually kind of came towards the end of my project. You will find yourself doing that too, finding new ways to group stuff, especially if you're towards the end. So now that we have this actually looks pretty, pretty okay so far, I think. And what do we want next? So let's move to the next section. So we just got done with the hero section. And this is actually where we're going to use our FontAwesome, which is our imports up here. So that's super dope. So we have this. Let's come in here and develop a ratings. Got that right there. And now let's do universal ratings. And this is not just Earth. This is all sentient life rates this film. And then off screen, I'm actually gonna copy and paste this on in because it's just easier. So if you were to look this up, go to FontAwesome's documentation, you would most likely find this, walk across it, once you bring it into your project. There's like paid versions of this stuff, and I'm just using the boring old, freemium stuff. So save that. And you could see that maybe there's some stuff here. Let me try highlighting it. So we have our universal ratings right there. And then we have a bunch of stars. If you can't see them yet, it's no big deal. But this is the next section we're going to work on. So now we have universal ratings, some text, and some stars. Because we want people to be like, man, is the hype real? Yeah, it's super real. It's Morbius, right? And so let's go up here. We'll actually close this off for now, just so we could try and think of ways to make this easier on the eyes as I go along. So now we have our ratings. And let's do margin top, because one thing that I need to work on, and I have to work on my styling and my color a lot. In the industry, you're typically going to be given a picture of how it should look and you know, comments on font size and stuff like that. So I'm trying to train myself to be more independent. So if in any of my videos my coloring is not as good as maybe you think it should be, you know, I'm trying just like you are. And, you know, do I get paid the big bucks? 100%. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm trying to find the flaws in my game like you are. So now we have that. We have the ratings. We have it going to be a flex. So that means we're going to, you know, want to handle it in a certain way here. And then let's come down here and do our ratings. And then for our H3 or H3, yes, and our paragraph tag, let's do a color of like 5 Fs and then an E. So all right, we got this. That looks pretty terrible right there. And the thing is how do we target these stars? Because we're going to do that next. This looks like trash right now. We're going to correct it. How do we correct these stars, right? So it's always important when you're bringing in a library, bring it above. So this is above my styles. So this is going to be present by the time I come in here, and I could add my own styles. So let's look at these. So I'm looking at this star and I see class FA star checked. So this kind of gives me an ability to kind of make some changes on any of these classes right here. And I think GitHub Copilot suggested what I'm about ready to show you. So you could play with it your own way. So what it suggested to me, and it worked, and it's not like I couldn't figure it out. So I think it said span FA star checked. And so we're going to come in here, we're going to do a font size of 45 pixels. And I'm going to copy these off screen just because they're longer to type. But if you have autocomplete, it should help. And I have autocomplete, but I also have copy and paste. So I have WebKit. I'm going to add a stroke to them, you know, of 1 pixel, make it black. And then the color is, what's this? 2CB67D. It's going to be some really sexy green stars. So we have these green stars right here. And what is the next thing we need to do? And the next thing we need to do is make this better looking on mobile. So let's come down here, pop open our media query. We're now below our hero section. As you notice, there's a naming scheme: hero, hero bar, hero info. That's because I always want to know where I'm at. And if I'm like in my hero section, I don't want to be jumping around because all of my hero styles are unorganized. So stay organized. I try to flow always from top down. I think it's just wise. So now that I'm in here, I'm going to come in and do ratings. And since I'm already doing a display of flex above, let's go ahead and give this a height of, let's just do 300 pixels. We'll do a flex direction of column because I want these to stack. And let's just start centering this stuff. So we're going to do a justify content center and an align items center. So let's come in here and see how this looks. It looks okay. This needs to be a little bit more smoothed out. So let's go ahead and go into here and do that. So then we're going to, let's see. We'll do ratings. Let's just update this right here. And so we're going to have, for this stuff, we're going to give it a margin bottom of 20 pixels. So there's some padding and stuff. This looks a little weird though. So let's come back into here. And so what I did off screen, I actually did not copy and paste this in, is actually this. I think it was suggested by GitHub Copilot, which is like AI. It like kind of knows what I want to do. So there we go. That is much nicer and safer, right? So now I have all of this right here. You load this, awesome, Morbius, scroll down, and you see that all sentient life is rating this thing, 5 stars. I mean, that's pretty obvious if you ask me. So now we have that done. Let's go to the review section here. So we're going to do div.review. Let's see. Header, and this is kind of breaking my thing above. I should call this reviews or review wrapper, but it'll be fine. It's kind of like music theory. Once you learn the rules, you can kind of break them because you know what you're doing. At least that's what I'm told. At least tell myself. Certified fan review. These are definitely not made up. These are 100% real fan reviews. So now that I have that section there, what I'm going to come in to do now is do a div and then dot for the class reviews, and this is kind of like my big wrapper here. And then I'm going to do a div dot review, and then I'm going to come in, and this is where I'm going to do some copy and pasting coming on up, because each review is going to have the same kind of style. And what I'm going to do is essentially copy and paste it on out, because that's the easiest thing to do. So now that I have this here, I'm going to come in and let me actually stop that. Let's add a class in here. We'll do a review quote. And this should be good to go. And I'll have another one down here. And this one's going to be from Daryl. I think that's how you spell Daryl. If your name's Daryl, correct me. So what is this going to say? Let's go ahead and do a view word wrap. And then what would someone say that's seen this movie? My wife and I were having marriage problems and seeing this movie with her really helped out the relationship. Morbius not only saves the day, but saves an ordinary man's marriage. So we're going to scroll down here and we see this. And even unstyled, if you were to see this, I mean, you would be hammering buy tickets by now for this movie. But we still want to do our due diligence and make this better looking. So we're going to come into our styles here and let's make sure we're out of the phone view. And one thing I'm going to show you that I've seen done before, because your CSS in the corporate sphere could possibly be gigantic. I've even seen people do stuff like this where they, because as you're going through this, you could see if maybe slightly on a sidebar here, there's like this big block. And so you'll know that that's like a new section you are working on. So let's come down in here. Let's look at the review header. Let's do a margin top and bottom of 40 pixels to give it some breathing room. Don't forget, breathing room is something you want. It's very easy to like want to jam a bunch of crap on there, but like let stuff breathe, let it hang out by itself, let the eyes go to an uncluttered place. And add some white. And then to the reviews itself, we're going to do a display of flex. And then the individual review or reviews is kind of hard because you use an S and then one without an S. This is like the wrapper. This is each individual review. We're going to do a color of white. Let's do a border of 1.5 pixels, solid, and let's give it this neat little color C09D12. And then let's do a border radius of 4 pixels to make it super smooth. Okay, so this looks okay, but it needs to be tightened up a little bit more, right? So let's come down in here. And let's go into reviews. Let's do a flex direction of column. Because it makes sense, right? You're only going up or down. You're not really worrying about the left or right much. And then we're going to align items center. We're going to go to the review. Let's add a margin top of 20 pixels. And do a width of 90%. That way it's not like, you know, grinding up on the sides. And then let's go ahead and change the text a little bit. And let's just give it a little bit more breathing room of like 5 pixels. So now we come into here and we have this now. So that's super cool. Where do we go from here? Well, the correct answer and only answer is we get more certified fan, comments about this. So we're going to come out into here and we know that we are going to have more of this review. So let's come in here and we'll do review. And then we're going to have a review quote. And then we're going to have below that another paragraph tag here. So we have 1 already. So this is 2. And what I'm going to do is copy this out. And we're going to have 4 total. So it looks really wonky and weird right now. But let's just start with the next quote. And if I screw up, then you'll see me fix it. So it says, I walked into the wrong movie theater, but it was one time in my life I didn't walk into a mistake. The special effects are next level AF. And who said this? You guessed it. His name is Tim. The next quote. I want a sequel, prequel, and everything in between. Ralph is the very praised individual for saying that. And the last one is I was moping, but now I am Morbin. And who said this? Morbius. Probably. Right? So we have everything ready to go. And now we see that we have all of our reviews right here. So this is cool. We started up here, and now we're all the way finally down here. So what is there left, to do? And that is to come in, and we want to actually have a footer. So let's come in here and let's add a footer. So this is the bottom of the previous section. Give us your money. And so this is another suggestion from GitHub Copilot, but I think I may have smoothed it out so it looks a little bit better. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in from off screen. Feel free to pause, go to my GitHub and just copy and paste this yourself. So these are a bunch of styles and text that now we have to go back and style. Everything is there. It's just black on black right now. So what we have to do is go up. Once again, we could see right here. I'm going to close that off. Now, if you ever style your footer and it doesn't work, make sure you're not putting a dot in front of it, designating it as a class, because once you write enough classes, everything starts to look like a class eventually. I'm going to do a margin top of 20 pixels. Let's do a background color of 72757E. We'll do a text align. Oh, it's not text. Text align center. And then these are just how I ended up styling this. And that is, I ended up doing for the FontAwesome stuff. So I did the font size as 45 pixels. I did the padding to give some space in between. 10 pixels. And then because I'm lazy, I'm going to copy and paste the WebKit stuff like for the previous. Going to give it a consistency of the border, or at least a stroke, which is kind of like a border that hugs the actual element rather than like the padding. And then we're going to add a color of 2CB67D. So that really sexy color. We're going to scroll down here and we see that we are messing this up because we have to make this a class. There we go. It even takes some Bitcoin right there, right? Got some Stripe, and you could feel free to come in and do whatever you want to with, your icons you want to have. So now let's come in and look and see if there's anything that we need to do with our actual styles. If you hear my dog in the background, he hears dogs outside, and he acts very, very imposing. So now that we're looking at this, we could see that the color may not be the sexiest thing ever. And once again, this is just a fun little project. We could, look at our styling and see, is there anything else that we necessarily want to do? So we have to give us your money. We have the icons here. And I think what I want to do from here is actually, and this is interesting and fun, is move out of our standard styles, our phone view. I'm going to copy and paste this right here. Actually, I'm going to copy and paste all of this right here. And what I'm going to do next is move into our tablet view. And so I chose the 768 pixels. And so if we're going to move into a tablet view with this beautiful artwork, we're going to want to look at it as a tablet. So we have this, and let's come here and just do some general housekeeping. So we're going to increase our font size for H2 up to 45 pixels. Our H3, let's do a font size of 38 pixels. Our paragraph tag, we'll do it 30 pixels. And this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting here. So what I'm going to do is do our image, or IMG I should say, that thing that we had to display none of. Now we're going to start displaying it. So we're going to do inline, or display inline. Max width, let's give this 100%. And our height is going to be auto. And this is going to look really bad, like really, really, really bad. So let's just save this and just show you. Yeah, I mean, this may actually increase ticket sales, how bad it looks, right? But this is the thing about development, right? We're going to start cleaning this up. And this is kind of when you get into some kind of weird, when you have a format change between a phone, which doesn't have as much space as a tablet. So this looks bad. Yours should look something like this. Don't worry. Let's get into, actually fixing it. So we're going to come in. We're going to go to the header. We're going to do padding. We're going to do 20 pixels, then 50 pixels. We're going to do a display of flex. We're going to do a flex direction because I like being explicit of row, even though I believe that's the default. I just want to show my intentions because we are, for some things, jumping between columns and rows, and it does more good than it does harm. We're going to do a flex end, and then we're going to align items center. So that way everything is nice and tight and lined up evenly. And then let's come down here. We'll do a margin right. Auto. Let's make this font size 45 pixels. And so this looks a little wonky, but trust me, we're still going to be fixing this a bit. So next thing we have to do is actually work on these buttons right here and kind of make them kind of coexist on the same line. All right, sorry for that weird little edit right there. So what we're going to come in to do is let's do a display. Let's see, let's do, I think it was like inherit. So now we have the text right here. And one thing that we can do is we can make these, the text on these buttons a little bit bigger, but let's go ahead and get working on more of, I guess I would say, the hero section here. We could come back and start smoothing this stuff on out. So we have this, we have its Morbin time right here. So let's go ahead and get working on the actual hero item here. And what thing that is interesting is we've worked on the small styles going, we want them to cascade on up, but what if we don't want a style that was used on a smaller screen? Well, we could give it a new style, right? But in some ways, like, what does that word or does that attribute look like? So we're going to get ready to see that in just a moment. So let's do a background image. We'll do none, so we know we don't want it. Okay, so background, oh, it gave me the same thing twice. No repeat. The position is going to be static. The background position, just because I don't want anything lingering, initial is kind of, from what I've read and looked up, the way to undo what was the previous style. So, all right, so this guy's floating off into the nether realm right here, so this looks kind of bad. So let's come in here and start working on more of it. Or I want to make a Morbius joke there, but I can't really think of, I think I've already expended all my jokes. So width, we're going to do inherit for the hero bar. And it's going to yell at me because I don't have a semicolon there. Our position is going to be static. Once again, just going back to our defaults. Top is going to be initial. Left is going to be initial. Let me move this out of the way. And we're going to do a display flex because when I did this originally, it wasn't a flex item, but I realized as I had more real estate, it made sense to show the image and stuff differently. Flex direction, we're definitely going to be doing a row here. And then align items, we're going to be doing a center. And then we're going to come in here and do a, let's say, hero info. We're going to do a margin of 40 pixels, 0 pixels here. Display a flex. We're going to do a flex direction of column. Let's save this. And we see, let me refresh this here. So we see that something got thrown off right here. It's kind of sitting on top of our header. A bunch of stuff got jumbled around. So let's go ahead and look back and see what may have been left out, because odds are it is one really tiny thing that was not set correctly. We could see, once again, sorry for the edit there, is that it was the transform and then the flex direction column I had to fix. So now it's sitting right here and it looks pretty okay. As we could see, a lot of the stylings that we did previously look pretty okay, right? It's scaling up relatively well. I think that's a nice thing to have right here. And don't forget the transform, and I imagine the flex direction column mucked this up quite a bit. So always keep track of what the smaller styles may be going upwards, because I skipped over this one and it caused me a massive headache. So I'm going to come in here now and we're going to get ready to do desktop view, which is super cool. We'll do a desktop view. Let's do 1200 pixels. And so what I want to do now is, and like I said, freestyle this yourself. If you think I'm a bad designer, it's all good. But I'm gonna make some just generic changes here. Let's do font size. It's 23 pixels I had. And so now let's pop this open. So now we have this right here. All right, cool. Our overall button sizes, padding is a bit thicker. It's a larger button. Font size is 23 pixels. I think it's okay to read. Maybe it could be a little bit bigger, but what do I know about design? So I want to come in and I want to work on the hero bar a little bit more. What I would like to do is give it a background color, and I'm going to explain why in a second. And this is, you don't have to necessarily do this, but this is me looking at other examples online. Because one of the biggest challenges I face is when I am going from, if I'm only doing desktop, which in some cases you may only develop purely desktop websites for, internal stuff at your company. No one's going to do their work on a mobile device. But styling, right? I just had this really tiny picture before, this thing right here. But now I have like text and I have all this other stuff. So I kind of want to play with my space a bit more. So this is me emulating what I've seen online. We do a flex direction of row. Justify content, we're going to do a space around. And we're going to do a flex wrap. So when it gets smaller, it wraps and it kind of looks like a column here. So that's kind of tight. But when I come out to here to like a larger screen size and up, right? Now we got this right here, which I think looks pretty snazzy. So we have this, and then as it comes down, it wraps and it's nice and centered, making it more responsive. So that's pretty cool. So let's come down here and work a little bit more on the reviews section here. Or should say review. Oh, reviews. Sorry, my bad. I can't see. And, let's do it in this order. Let's do a max width of 2000 pixels. And that's because as I was going through this, there's this section I didn't want to get as wide because I have 3 monitors. And so I was expanding it out, the width, to an ungodly length. And I just didn't like the way reviews look. So I'm giving it a max width of 2000 pixels. And once it goes beyond that point, it doesn't get any wider. We're going to margin auto this so it centers. We're going to do a flex direction of row. Once again, flex coming into play. Flex wrap, we definitely want it to wrap to help with that simulation like we just saw with the picture. Justify content center. And since we're going to have a bit more space with each review, we're going to do a width of, let's do like, say, I don't know, 40%, a margin of 5 pixels. Let's do a minimum height of 250 pixels. That way all of them kind of, they all look the same height. Someone writes a paragraph or someone writes one sentence, it doesn't matter. We'll do a flex direction of column, so we want them to stack. Justify content center. And align items, we'll do a center again. We'll save this. And now as we expand this on out, we see now it, flows down like that. And it kind of like, only gets so wide at a certain point, right? So that's kind of cool. But let's see here. I think this is what I wanted. There we go. I forgot to add the display flex. And there could be a little bit more love added in here. Like this is center nice. This is center nice. This text kind of rubs up against the sides, although it doesn't look too bad, I guess. But you could, freestyle this part if you wanted to. I just wanted to center the text in here as, as I thought it was appropriate for a Morbius website. But now let's go down to the footer. Let's give it a height of, let's just say 50 pixels. Come back in here. And now we have it all. This is it. This is the responsive Morbius website. It's Morbin time. Go out and see the movie 5 or 6 times, or at least state online you're going to. We want it coming out a 3rd time for another 3rd flop. And as we come on down, we see it coming together, right? And there are some improvements you can make on every website. My website's your website's, but you got to start somewhere. If you're going to start responsive. So that way it's easier. And always start on the mobile view so all your styles cascade upward so it's less code you write. And that's it. If you like what I'm doing, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.